First Contact Protocol. Emma Chen pressed her nose against the observation window of transport vessel Hermes, watching as orbital research station Alpha 7 grew larger in the viewport. At 14, she was the youngest human ever to attend an interspecies diplomatic summit. The massive station rotated slowly against the backdrop of distant stars, its crystalline spires and metallic corridors housing representatives from 6 different civilizations. "Remember what we discussed," Dr. Marcus Thompson said, adjusting his formal diplomatic uniform. Emma's guardian and mentor had raised her since she was 8, after her parents died in a research accident. As Earth's leading theoretical physicist, he understood Emma's unique gift better than anyone. "You're here as an observer only. These negotiations are delicate." Emma nodded, though her mind was already racing with possibilities. 3 months ago, humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel using quantum tunneling technology. Within weeks, they had received an invitation to join the Galactic Cooperative, a union of advanced species that governed trade and knowledge exchange across this sector of the galaxy. But first, humanity had to prove they belonged. The docking bay of Alpha 7 was unlike anything Emma had ever seen. Creatures from different worlds moved through the space with practiced efficiency. Tall, reptilian saurians with emerald scales walked alongside ethereal crystalline beings that seemed to be made of living light. Multi-limbed arachnoids skittered across web-like walkways suspended from the ceiling, while peaceful aquarians moved through transparent water-filled tubes that crisscrossed the entire bay. Captain Zara Voss, the station commander, greeted them at the airlock. She was a stern woman with silver hair and eyes that had seen too many diplomatic crises. "Dr. Thompson, welcome to Alpha 7. I trust your journey was comfortable." "Thank you, Captain. May I present Emma Chen, one of Earth's most promising young scientists." Captain Voss studied Emma with curious eyes. "Quite young for a diplomatic observer, isn't she?" "Emma has an extraordinary gift for quantum mathematics," Dr. Thompson explained. The council thought her presence might be educational. As they walked through the station's corridors, Emma marveled at the seamless integration of different architectural styles. Saurian bioorganic curves merged with crystalline geometric patterns, while arachnoid web structures provided additional dimensional pathways. The station itself was a testament to interspecies cooperation. They arrived at the Central Assembly Hall, a vast amphitheater where representatives from each species had gathered. At the center of the room stood a massive holographic display showing what appeared to be the most complex mathematical equation Emma had ever seen. Symbols from different numerical systems floated and shifted in 3-dimensional space, creating patterns that seemed almost alive. Ambassador Kethtar, the lead Saurian diplomat, stood to address the assembly. His voice carried the weight of centuries as he spoke. "Honored delegates, we gather to evaluate humanity's petition for membership in the Galactic Cooperative. As tradition dictates, they must demonstrate their species' capacity for advanced mathematical reasoning by solving the universal constant equation." Emma stared at the floating formula. She had studied advanced quantum mechanics since she was 10, but this equation was unlike anything in human textbooks. It seemed to incorporate elements of quantum physics, multidimensional geometry, and what looked like consciousness mathematics that shouldn't exist. High Scholar Vexneri, the crystalline Etherian's chief scientist, began explaining the challenge. Her voice resonated like crystal bells as she spoke. This equation was discovered 15,000 years ago, carved into the surface of a neutron star by an unknown ancient civilization. It contains the fundamental constants that govern reality itself. 5 member species have attempted to solve it as part of their admission trials. All have failed. Dr. Thompson shifted uncomfortably beside Emma. The implication was clear. If 5 advanced alien civilizations couldn't solve this equation, what hope did humanity have? The Saurians, Vexneri continued, approached it as a biological algorithm, seeking organic solutions. The arachnoids treated it as a web of interconnected probability matrices. The Aquarians attempted to solve it through fluid dynamics and flow calculations. The mechanoids processed it through pure computational analysis. Even we Etherians, with our crystalline quantum consciousness, could not unlock its secrets. Emma studied the equation more carefully. As she watched, something strange happened. Certain symbols seemed to shift position when she focused on them, as if responding to her observation. She blinked, thinking it was her imagination, but the movement happened again. "Dr. Thompson," she whispered, tugging on his sleeve. "The equation is changing." "What do you mean?" "Watch the third-dimensional matrix on the left. When I look at it directly, the quantum coefficients shift." Dr. Thompson squinted at the hologram, but shook his head. "I don't see any changes, Emma." Ambassador Kethtar was addressing the assembly again. "Humanity will have 72 hours to present their solution. Failure to solve the universal constant equation will result in immediate diplomatic quarantine. Your species will not be contacted again for 1,000 years. The weight of those words settled on Emma's shoulders. 1,000 years. If they failed, countless generations of humans would never see the stars, never learn from other civilizations, never contribute to the greater galactic community. As the formal session ended and delegates began to disperse, Emma remained seated, staring at the equation. The symbols continued their subtle dance, responding to her attention in ways that seemed to follow quantum mechanical principles she recognized but couldn't quite name. "Fascinating, isn't it?" a voice said behind her. Emma turned to see High Scholar Vexneri approaching, her crystalline form refracting the light into rainbow patterns. "You seem unusually focused on the equation for one so young." "It's responding to observation," Emma said. "The quantum states are collapsing and reforming based on conscious attention. That's not how normal mathematics works." Vexneri's crystal body brightened with what Emma interpreted as surprise. "Explain your reasoning, young human." "In quantum mechanics, the act of observation affects the observed system. If this equation contains quantum elements, then looking at it should change its state. And it does. The symbols shift position based on where I direct my attention and how I'm thinking about the problem." The Etherian scholar was quiet for a long moment. "In 15,000 years, no one has suggested the equation might be quantum interactive. We have treated it as a static puzzle to be solved through logic and computation. But what if it's not static?" Emma stood up, excitement building in her voice. "What if it's alive? What if the equation is designed to respond to the consciousness examining it?" "Impossible," Ambassador Kethtar interrupted, having overheard their conversation. "Mathematics is universal. It cannot be subjective or dependent on the observer's mental state. But quantum mechanics is subjective," Emma countered. "The measurement problem in quantum physics shows that consciousness plays a fundamental role in determining reality. If this equation incorporates quantum consciousness principles, you suggest," Vexneri said slowly, "that the solution changes based on who is trying to solve it." Emma nodded eagerly. "Not just who, but how they're thinking about it. Each species that attempted to solve it approached it from their own cognitive framework. Saurians think biologically. Arachnoids think in network patterns. Aquarians think in flows. But what if the equation requires a different kind of thinking entirely?" Ambassador Kethtar's reptilian features showed skepticism. "And what unique cognitive approach do humans possess that 5 advanced civilizations lack?" Emma looked back at the floating equation, watching the symbols dance in response to her attention. "We see patterns in chaos. We find connections where others see randomness. And we're really, really good at quantum intuition." Dr. Thompson placed a hand on Emma's shoulder. "Emma, this is all very theoretical. We have less than 72 hours to produce an actual solution." "Then let me try," Emma said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was proposing. "Let me interact with the equation using quantum consciousness principles. If I'm right about it being responsive to observation, then traditional mathematical approaches will never work. It needs to be solved the way quantum systems naturally behave, through probability, uncertainty, and conscious interaction. High Scholar Vexneri's crystalline form pulsed with complex light patterns. The risk is enormous. If you fail, your species faces millennium of isolation. If we don't try something different, we'll fail anyway, Emma replied. Every other species used their strongest cognitive abilities and failed. Maybe humanity's strength isn't in being smarter than everyone else. Maybe it's in thinking about problems in ways no one else has considered. Ambassador Kethtar exchanged glances with the other alien representatives who had gathered to listen. You request permission to attempt an unprecedented approach to the universal constant equation. I request permission to have a conversation with it, Emma said simply. The chamber fell silent as the implication sank in. Either Emma Chen was about to make the greatest mathematical breakthrough in galactic history, or she was about to doom humanity to cosmic isolation. The equation continued to float in the center of the room, its symbols shifting and dancing as if aware that everything was about to change. Dr. Thompson looked at his young protege, seeing the same fearless curiosity that had driven Emma to master quantum physics years ahead of her peers. If Emma believes this approach has merit, then humanity stands behind her attempt. Ambassador Kethtar's yellow eyes studied Emma intently. Very well, young human. You have permission to interact with the universal constant equation using your quantum consciousness approach. But understand, the stakes could not be higher. The future of your entire species rests on your shoulders. Emma nodded, feeling the weight of billions of human lives pressing down on her. But when she looked at the equation again, she felt something else, a sense of recognition, as if the mathematical patterns were trying to communicate something important. Something that had been waiting 15,000 years for the right kind of mind to listen. The equation is responding, Vexneri observed, her voice filled with wonder. The quantum matrices are stabilizing into new configurations. Emma felt information flowing into her mind, not as numbers or symbols, but as pure understanding. The equation wasn't just describing universal constants, it was describing the nature of consciousness itself, the way thinking beings interact with reality at the quantum level. It's beautiful, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. The equation isn't a test of mathematical ability. It's a test of quantum consciousness evolution. The ancient civilization that created it wanted to know if a species had developed the ability to think quantumly, to participate consciously in reality creation. The symbols in the equation suddenly locked into a stable configuration, glowing with soft golden light. New mathematical relationships became visible, showing connections between consciousness, quantum mechanics, and the fundamental structure of spacetime itself. The Saurians couldn't solve it because they approach reality through biological determinism, Emma explained, her voice distant as information continued to flow through her mind. The arachnoids failed because they see everything as mechanical networks. The Aquarians think in terms of flow states that are still too linear. The mechanoids process information without consciousness. And the Etherians, despite their quantum nature, approach the equation as external observers rather than participants. Ambassador Kethtar leaned forward intently. And humans. Humans are natural quantum consciousness participants. We dream, we imagine, we see possibilities that don't yet exist. We've been doing quantum thinking for millennia without realizing it. Every time we make intuitive leaps, every time we solve problems through creativity rather than logic, we're demonstrating quantum consciousness capabilities. The equation began to transform, its symbols rearranging into a new pattern that pulsed with lifelike rhythms. Emma opened her eyes, but kept her consciousness connected to the mathematical structure. The solution isn't a number or a formula, she announced to the assembled delegates. It's a relationship. The universal constant isn't constant at all. It's the rate at which consciousness and reality co-create each other. Different species will get different values because each type of consciousness interacts with quantum reality in unique ways. She gestured to the transformed equation. This is why no one could solve it through traditional methods. The ancient civilization that created this test understood something we're just beginning to discover. Consciousness isn't separate from physical reality. It's a fundamental force, like gravity or electromagnetism, that shapes the universe at the quantum level. High Scholar Vexneri approached the holographic display, her crystalline form brightening with excitement. The mathematical relationships you've revealed, they're elegant beyond anything we've ever discovered. This could revolutionize our understanding of consciousness across all species. More than that, Emma said, finally breaking her connection with the equation. It explains why the Galactic Cooperative exists in the first place. Different types of consciousness create different aspects of reality. Saurian biological thinking, arachnoid network consciousness, Aquarian flow states, mechanoid processing, Etherian quantum awareness. Each contributes something unique to the total reality matrix. Ambassador Kethtar's yellow eyes widened with understanding. You suggest that diversity of consciousness is not just beneficial, but necessary for universal stability. Emma nodded. The equation shows that reality requires multiple types of conscious observation to remain stable. If only one type of consciousness existed, the quantum foundations of reality would eventually collapse. The cooperative isn't just about trade and knowledge sharing. It's about maintaining the conscious diversity necessary for universal survival. Dr. Thompson stared at the transformed equation in amazement. Emma, do you realize what you've accomplished? You haven't just solved the test. You've discovered a new field of physics. Consciousness dynamics could change everything we know about science. And humanity. Captain Voss asked, what does this mean for our application to join the cooperative? The alien representatives exchanged glances, communicating through methods their species had developed over millennia of cooperation. Finally, Ambassador Kethtar stepped forward. Emma Chen of Earth, in solving the universal constant equation, you have demonstrated that humanity possesses a type of quantum consciousness that is both unique and essential. Your species' natural ability to participate in reality creation through intuitive quantum thinking fills a gap in our collective consciousness matrix that we didn't even realize existed. He paused, his reptilian features showing something that might have been respect. Furthermore, your age when accomplishing this feat suggests that quantum consciousness capabilities are naturally emerging in your species. This is unprecedented among cooperative members. High Scholar Vexneri added her own assessment. The mathematical insights you've provided will advance the consciousness research of all member species by centuries. Your contribution is already invaluable. Therefore, Ambassador Kethtar announced formally, humanity is not only accepted into the Galactic Cooperative, but is granted immediate full membership status. No probationary period will be required. The assembly hall erupted in harmonics, clicks, bioluminescent displays, and other species-specific expressions of approval. Emma felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of what had just happened. Additionally, Vexneri continued, we would like to offer Emma Chen the position of Galactic Mathematical Consul, making her the youngest being ever to hold such a position. Her unique quantum consciousness abilities make her ideally suited to facilitate mathematical communication between species. Emma looked at Dr. Thompson, who nodded with pride and encouragement. It would be an honor, she said simply. As the formal ceremonies concluded and delegates began preparing for humanity's integration into galactic society, Emma found herself alone with the transformed equation. The mathematical patterns continued to pulse gently, no longer mysterious but somehow familiar, like an old friend she had finally learned to understand. Dr. Thompson joined her, placing a hand on her shoulder. How does it feel to have changed the course of human history? Emma smiled, still watching the quantum mathematics dance in the holographic display. Like the beginning of something incredible. We're not just joining a galactic community, we're helping to create a new kind of conscious evolution. Humans, with our natural quantum intuition, can help bridge the gap between different types of consciousness. She turned to look at him, her eyes bright with possibilities. This isn't the end of the test, Dr. Thompson. It's the beginning of humanity's real contribution to the universe. we're going to help create a new kind of reality. One where consciousness and cosmos work together to build something none of us could imagine alone. The universal constant equation pulsed one final time, as if acknowledging her words, before stabilizing into its new configuration. Emma Chen, at 14 years old, had not only secured humanity's place among the stars, but had opened the door to a future where the power of conscious participation in reality would transform the entire galaxy. Outside the observation windows, the stars seemed brighter somehow, as if responding to the presence of a new type of consciousness that was finally ready to take its place in the cosmic community. The age of human quantum consciousness had begun.